Hey lads, welcome back to another game analysis, and today we have a game submitted by Corey, who is a 700 rated player. This was a rapid 10 flat game, and I think this might be a really helpful game for you lower elo rated people, just to see what kind of mistakes were made and maybe how to think about the game. So let's go through this game right now. So the game started with the move e4. And Corey played c6, the Caro Kann defense, which I'm very happy to see because it's one of the best defenses and it's a simple one. After d4, he played d5. And here there are always three options, basically three. They could capture, this is the exchange variation. They could advance, this is the advance variation. Or they could defend their pawn with a move like knight to c3. And in this game, we see the advance variation. Now, Corey went for the move bishop f5, which is a top book move and one that many grandmasters play. But I don't like this move. And I think a much more simple way to play this opening is the move c5. C5 just has some very simple plans, and I'll show you a few of those right now if you want to see this. But bishop f5 is a good response if you know what you're going for. Let's have a quick look at c5. So after c5, they have two options. They could either take you or defend their pawn. They could even defend their pawn like this with the knight. And their pawn's already defended by the queen. So let's say they do a silly move like knight c3, then you can just take, and they have to recapture with queen. Bit ugly, and they have this sort of forward pawn that isn't protected by another pawn. They're going to have to play f4 at some point. So this is kind of ugly for them. They have two attackers on your pawn, but you can simply defend it with e6. So this would be a totally fine opening. You can get your knight out here, attack the queen, attack the pawn. This would be if they make a kind of silly move like knight c3. They could take your pawn. Now, if they take your pawn, you do the same thing regardless. Knight c6. You're attacking their central pawn, which is not defended, so they probably defend it. Knight f3. You pin their knight to the queen. This knight can't move and is now no longer defending this pawn. Let's say they go bishop b5 and they pin your knight. So now you can't take. Well, then you just play e6. You always play e6 after getting your bishop out and keep your pawn chain solid. Right now you're down a pawn, but you're attacking this pawn with your bishop, and you may be attacking this pawn very soon if you can get rid of this bishop. Here, let's say they capture, you capture, bishop e3, defending their weak pawn. Now, this one is the one maybe we want to go after still. So how would we do that? What's a way to do that? Knight e7, knight g6, and we can maybe take it. So let's look at that. Knight e7, let's say they castle, knight g6, and here they may not realize that this pawn is not defended. They might play a move like knight c3. And so it's very easy for them to give up this pawn, and we can get it back. So we could just capture here, a brilliant move, because they can't take because we win their queen. So there are ways to just win this pawn back, but basically, when you play c5, the plans for the opening are quite simple. You're just trying to win back one of these pawns, and you're trying to develop in the, while you do it. And I think the opening that you played, you didn't quite understand what you were going for. Let's go back here to when we played c5. Maybe they don't take, maybe they defend their own pawn. Well, here I always capture, they capture, and now we just attack the base of the pawn chain. So this is the pawn we just attack with everything we've got. Let's say they defend it. Okay, what do? Pin the knight to the queen. Let's say they go bishop e2, removing the pin. Well, then we can go e6. You always play e6 after you get your bishop out. And then let's say they castle, knight ge7. And where's this knight going this time? Is it coming here to attack this pawn? No, it's coming to f5 to attack this pawn. So maybe they go knight c3 here. You go knight f5. You've got two attackers here, and they have two defenders. However, one of those defenders can be destroyed very easily. So let's say they go h3 trying to get rid of your bishop. Well, you just capture here. They recapture. And now we win that pawn. And we're up a pawn. from the opening. So hopefully this is helpful to sort of see how I think about the advanced variation of the Caro Kann. And I think you can maybe put some of these plans into your game. I think the way you played with bishop f5, it's just a little more complex and the ideas are not so obvious. This pawn can always be defended with c3 and we don't have a knight here on c6 helping to attack. So I really think you often want to, in a lot of Caro Kann structures, the pawn on c6 needs to push to c5, just so that you make room for your knight to jump to this square. Let's see what happened after you went bishop f5. So they went knight f3, you went e6, very good, solid stuff, knight c3, and here you went bishop b4, pinning this knight to the king. This is kind of like Winnoware French, if anybody knows what that is. The bishop comes out to b4. It can be quite annoying for him to deal with. I don't like to do this because I think it's very easy for them to kick your bishop, and then you take, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. I always find if I bring the bishop out, I don't really know what my plans are going forwards. So a better move that not a better move, but a move that I would prefer to do would be a move like bishop e7. And probably do that after maybe getting my knight out to g6. So if we go back to here, maybe knight here, and then bishop here. And that way you've got your pieces out, and then you can get castled, and then you can think about your pawn push to c5. Now, the reason this bishop's so good on this diagonal, you don't really want to trade it off here, is because c5 is your eventual pawn break that you want to go for. You want to push c5 at some point, and when they capture back, you capture, and your bishop is super strong looking down this diagonal. Bishop b4 was played, bishop d2, removing the pin, knight e7, a3, kicking your bishop, and so here you could take, which is what you did, but I actually prefer bishop a5, bishop b6, and then it can look at this weak pawn. If this knight stays here on c3, then this is a backwards pawn, a pawn that can't be defended by another pawn because this pawn can never move forwards because there's a knight in his way. So just pulling your bishop back and sitting him here looking at this base of the pawn chain could be very helpful. Here you captured, they captured, and you castled. Great stuff. They went bishop d3. And here I think you made your first main mistake in the game. Like up to this point, you've played basically perfect chess, although maybe you haven't really understood what you're going for. Bishop d3. Anytime I see the bishop come to d3, I always trade it off. I just always trade off bishops. You don't have to move this bishop because you are defending it 2 times already. So unless maybe this knight came here and attacked you twice, then maybe you'd want to think about moving it or something. But in this position, I think just capturing, they recapture, and then you get on with your plan of whatever you're trying to go for. But don't move a piece twice. And here you put your bishop on g4. If you had just taken, you could have taken queen takes, and then you could just develop this other knight, put it on d7, and now you have a piece defending c5, and you can push this pawn. That could be your plan. Maybe you even get a queen here, getting ready to push this pawn and make your pawn break, because this is the base of their pawn chain. The pawn that is the furthest back in the line of pawns is this. It's this one. If this one moved here, then this would become the base of the pawn chain, and you'd want to attack b2. So here, the opponent actually, if we go back to bishop g4, the opponent actually missed a very nice tactic. And this is something you have to be extremely careful of when you're playing this Caro Kann. If you've brought your bishop out to f5, you want to make sure the opponent can't get on this diagonal. And there's a big reason for that. And the reason is they have a tactic called a Greek gift. So if they have a bishop and a knight and a queen, and the knight can jump to g5, then they can sacrifice their bishop. And you have to be very aware of this kind of tactic. Now, here your best move is to go to h8, but let's say you did capture. They have a check on g5, and if we go back to g8, they win the bishop back. They're going to come here. They're going to checkmate you. Like, it's just really scary. So you have to be very aware of Greek gifts if they have a bishop on this diagonal. So just be aware of that. Keep that in your mind. It's called a Greek gift because you basically give them the Trojan horse. This is the Trojan bishop. You give it to him, and as soon as you take it, you say, okay, we'll bring that bishop into our castle. We've just won this bishop. Then you get destroyed by all the warriors that are going to come and attack you. So just good to be aware of this. So he actually missed this tactic because after you went bishop g4, he castled, and now you need to really stop the Greek gift. So how do you stop it? You have to play h6 so that when the bishop comes here, you can just eat him. And there's a pawn here always that's defending your castle. Your king is in the castle, and you want the pawn on h6 to defend you. However, you played the move h5, which is not correct. Here he went h3, and you took his knight. He took with queen, and you didn't defend h5. Here you got to defend your weak pawn. It's a weak pawn. It's not defended by anything. So you got to just be aware of this stuff. You went knight d7, bringing your other knight into the game, and this hanging pawn is going to get eaten. It would have been much better if you had played g6. Now you're defending the pawn, and you have your castle wall up, and your king is safe at the back. Not the most safe, but decently safe. So if we go back here, you didn't play this. You played knight d7, and the queen took on h5. Quite scary. Now you played g6, and I'm going to say g6, fantastic. You defended checkmate. There's the only way to really defend this. I mean, you could have defended with knight, but it was more ugly. g6 was beautiful. You're attacking his queen, so his queen retreats to f3. You go knight f5, developing a piece. Fantastic stuff. Bishop takes, and here, if you had taken towards the center, which is a common idea in chess, you would have had these two files kind of open on your king and quite scary. It is an okay move, but it's definitely more scary to deal with. I like that you took with the e-pawn. I think this was a very good decision. They went bishop d2, getting a piece closer to the action. They're going to want to swing their queen over and come down here and try to checkmate you somehow. You went queen h4. And I honestly really like this move. You activate one of your pieces that was doing nothing. You activate and you make a threat. You're attacking on d4. He goes king h2. I don't know why he did this. Low elo, people just make sometimes silly moves. And you find the best response. Queen takes d4. Now you are attacking a pawn. You're attacking a bishop. You're attacking a pawn. Always look at all of the things you are attacking and keep them in your mind. Now, there's a reason I'm saying that, because look what happens next. Bishop h6. And he's made a big mistake here. There are 4 ways of dealing with an attack. The first way you can deal with an attack is you can kill the piece attacking you. Can you kill this bishop? No, you can't. The second way you can deal with an attack is you can block the attacking piece. Can you put a piece, maybe let's say you get this pawn and put it here so that the bishop's not attacking your rook? You can't. There's no way to block the attack. The third way is you can move your piece out of the way, which is exactly what you did. But there is actually a fourth thing that you can try to consider. So when you're playing chess, try to consider the four different ways you can deal with an attack. Create a bigger attack. And you could have done that with queen takes e5 check. And here, he's got to bring his bishop back. It's his best move. And now you can take on b2, that other piece that you were attacking earlier. And if he goes here, well, now you can just retreat your queen. Let's put it on f6, a great square for it. And you can get activity on the open file. You're up 2 pawns. You're winning this game. When bishop came to h6, you played rook fe8, which is fine. But just remember, there could have been a better way to deal with the attack. Here, he puts his rook on e1. You took on e5 with your knight, attacking his queen. And this sets up a really nasty attack here. Not quite yet, but it's coming. Anytime your opponent moves a piece, you should always consider what happens if you take that piece. So always consider captures. I mean, you can try to just do it really quick. What happens in this position if you capture his queen? His pawns get doubled. This is fantastic for you. He's got isolated double pawns. No other pawns can protect these pawns. There's no other pawns around them. So they're isolated and they're doubled. This is a huge weakness. So just always try to consider captures. Here, instead of capturing the queen, you just defended your own queen and you played c5. And so here, if he had captured, now you have isolated doubled pawns, which is a big weakness for you. You're still doing okay here. But you also, when you played c5, you allowed him to move his queen to a more active square, looking for some kind of checkmate at some point. Here you played f4. How many defenders do you have of this pawn? You got one queen defending it. And how many attackers does he have? He has 2 attackers. You always, and this is a rule in chess, you always need the same number of defenders as attackers. So if he's got 2 attackers, then you need 2 defenders. And you can quickly count that. Just 1, 2, 1. So before you move this, you need to think, I need to have another defender on this square if I'm going to move this pawn. So this was a big mistake. He could have simply captured with his bishop. He'd be attacking your knight. And now there's one less pawn defending your king. However, he made a mistake and he played his queen to g5. And here there's like some crazy tactics. And it's these kinds of positions you got to spend your time. You really got to think. You've got 5 minutes here. You really need to think for a while here. You made the move, queen takes, and you made that move in 10 seconds. 5:02 to 4:52 was the time here. And so you really got to take your time here. In chess, you always want to consider captures and you want to consider checks. And if you have checks, consider checks first. So let's think about this check with the knight. If we check with the knight and he moves his king, we win his queen. So he can't move his king. If we check with the knight, what is his only response? G takes f3. He has to do this. So now in your mind, think he's got 2 pawns here. And I could capture this pawn and fork the king and the rook. And I have another rook looking here, 2 attackers, and he's only got 1 defender. Maybe, but he also can defend with queen. And now that means if I take this rook, he can take my queen. So I'd have to take the rook with my queen. And now he wins my queen and I win his other rook. So I get 2 rooks for my 1 queen. That looks okay. But wait, there's something even better. Move the knight to f3. He captures the knight. And now capture the rook. Rook takes e1. Rook takes e1. And now we have a fork. Check, hitting the king and hitting the rook. If he blocks, we just take the rook because there's no longer a rook on a1 defending the rook that we're going to capture because this rook has moved. So let's just look through that sequence. Check, he has to capture, take the rook, he takes, check, and whatever he does here, queen g2 is his best move. We capture the rook. And now we're in a winning endgame. You can simply just put your other rook here, come up here, and pin the queen to the king. You're just going to win this game. So there are moments in chess when you really got to consider some of the tactics. Take some time if you do see it. Now, it may just not have been apparent to you. Moving a knight to this square might not be the most obvious, but you should always try to just look, where can my pieces move to check? And are there any tactics around it? So try to remember to always look for checks. Here you played queen takes f2. They took your knight, and your knight was only defended 1 time when you took here. So there's 2 attackers on the knight and only 1 defender. And so when he took, you can't really do much here. You check on a g3. He moves his king. You take the rook back, and he takes your rook. So you just swapped off rooks in a losing position. Never swap off rooks or swap off any pieces when you're losing. If you are losing, try to keep pieces on the board because then tactics can happen. But if you just simply trade down, you're going to make it much easier for your opponent to checkmate you. And here in this position, you got to be observant to this checkmate. It's very hard to see that he's threatening this. The reason he moved here, in your mind, you're thinking he moved there because he just wants to capture my rook. And then so you can just dismiss it. You can be like, oh, he just moved there so he could capture my rook. But you need to think, is there any other reason he moved there? Yes, well, there's a checkmate on the board. So when you moved rook to d8, defending your pawn, thinking he might take it, you get checkmated. I really recommend playing c5 against the advance instead of bishop f5 if you do want to try to practice and put that into some play. Lads, if you want to see more analysis like this, I have a couple of them over on my Patreon. You can watch them for free if you become a free member. I hope you enjoyed. Bye for now.